Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are wrapping up our Path to the Richielieu series, which can mean only one thing, guys. We're in the Richielieu. So, let's look at our commander. Now, I did actually try to change something up and test some things, but honestly, my Robert Gijard is better than the Dunkirk build, even at Dunkirk that is fully maxed out. I get a better reload out of this than I do that. I also went with the Azurlane Scharnhorst rather than Charles Madden for extra reload, and I tested both. But the dispersion is just too bad using Madden, so I used the Azurlane Scharnhorst to tighten that up a bit. If you do not have Azurlane Scharnhorst, go with Cunningham if you have to, but something to help with that dispersion, because these things are shotguns. Alright, but we also have Paolo de Revel there. We have Flammable Cannoneer, Gyrating Drill Bits, we have Megalomania, and we have Reaching Out XXL, with Will to Rebuild as our legendary perk. This is another reason I go with this over the Dunkirk build. Dunkirk doesn't have Will to Rebuild, so it's kind of one of those things where you might need it sometimes, okay? Let's go with the equipment. We're running Aiming Systems Mod 1, Steering Gears Mod 2, the Target Acquisition Mod, and we are running Main Battery Mod 3, okay? We are fully upgraded. And this is how old this ship is. I actually still have the alpha test flag on it before we got the community contributor flags. So I'm going to leave the alpha test flag on this. But yeah, I've had this one a while. But we are running a permanent Wait, are we? We aren't running a permanent camo. What's wrong with me? Let me just remedy that, shall we? I do like this permanent camo, by the way. At least on this ship. It looks really good. We're going to have to convert some extra... Let me go ahead and... Whoops! Wrong button. Just go ahead and convert a few of these. By a few, I mean all of them. And we can go ahead and upgrade this. There we go. Now we have a permanent revolutionary camo. I do like this camo on the ship. It does look good. We are running boosters on everything, so keep that in mind when you look at the after action report. I don't know why I still had all the boosters on, but it's a thing. The only thing we didn't have a booster for is the extended range, which is the epic booster, so keep that in mind. But yeah, stats. Survivability 60,510 hit points with 35% torpedo damage reduction. Then we have the 380mm 45 caliber main guns. You have 2 of those that have 4 guns each, so 8 total. And they are at the front of the ship, as you guys should know by now. Firing range is 19.5 kilometers. Reload time is down to just 22.3 seconds. You can get that lower. But like I said, if you throw Madden on there to get that lower, the dispersion tends to be really, really bad. So that's, in my opinion, I prefer the Scharnhorst and having Paolo de Revel. That gets your reload down enough to where it's nice, and then you still have some pretty decent dispersion. It's still a shotgun, don't get me wrong, but it's a lot better than it is without Scharnhorst. 180-degree turn time is just 30.8 seconds, and considering the guns are at the front, you're almost always going to have the guns where you need them when you need them to. HE shell maximum damage of 5,400 with a 36% chance of setting fires. AP shell maximum damage of 13,090. The secondaries, you have 100mm 45 caliber 1931s. You have 12 of those that reach out to 5.2, reload in 4 seconds. They fire HE with 1,400 maximum damage and a 6% chance of setting fires. And then you have the 152mm 55 caliber 1936s that you have 9 of that reach out to 5.2 kilometers, reload in 12 seconds. And fire HE with a maximum shell damage of 2,200 and a 12% chance to set fires. The AA on this isn't particularly amazing, but we haven't spec'd into the AA at all on this ship, so there's that too. But 48 20mm 70 caliber Mark IVs that do 173 damage per second and fire out to 2 kilometers. Then you have the 40mm 56 caliber Bofors Mark II that you have 14 times 4 of. 28 and 28 be 56. So 56 of those 223 damage per second that fire out to 3.5 kilometers. Then you have the 100mm 45 caliber 1931s. You have 12 of those that do 41 damage per second and reach out to 5 kilometers. And the 152mm 55 caliber 1936s that you have 9 of that do 25 damage per second and reach out to 5 kilometers. Maneuverability. You've got 28.8 knot top speed without the engine boost running. With the engine boost, it's a little bit better than that. Turning circle radius is 850 meters, so like right in the middle of not being good, not being bad. Pretty average, I would say. Rudder shift time is 12.3 seconds, which is actually really good. And concealment. 14.6 kilometers by sea, 12.2 by air. 2 is always guaranteed, and 13.9 kilometer detectability while firing in smoke. Armor. You have 32mm bow all over the place, which is pretty standard for a tier 7 battleship. So the only thing going through that is Yamato, so keep that in mind. But yeah, the biggest downside of the French ships, A, is the weakness of the guns. Because it has all the guns in the front of the ship, and there are quad turrets, they're very large, very easy for people to hit, and are susceptible to being knocked out. On top of that, it tends to be very squishy to HE. Okay, the Jean Bart as well. A lot of people will just straight up switch to HE and just nuke the French battleships, the tier 7 French battleships. They're very susceptible to it. So keep that in mind when you're using these ships. You've got to play relatively close to islands, not necessarily hiding behind them, but use islands to cover yourself to protect you from crossfires. Now, if you go broadside in these, it's a crapshoot, okay? Most of the time you're going to get away with it, but if anybody knows what they're doing, they can absolutely death strike you, so keep that in mind. Let's get rid of this and look at the Citadel and see why I say that. Okay, so from the front gun all the way to the back of the second tier, basically, you've got your Citadel. It's right at the waterline, just slightly above the waterline, and there's nothing really there. There's not a lot of armor to protect it. This is what you call an all-or-nothing armor scheme. Same thing that the Iowas use, okay? That's why the Iowa is also very susceptible to being citadeled from the side. It's just, there's not a lot of armor, so when you do penetrate it, bad things tend to happen, okay? But yeah, so the main problem that a lot of people have is because it is an all-or-nothing armor scheme, and it does have such a low citadel, that the shells tend to overpin the ship. Or they get full penetrations, but they don't explode inside the citadel, so you just get regular penetrations. So you'll hit them for 13 or 14,000 damage, but you don't actually get any citadels. The trick to citadeling these is by aiming about halfway from the waterline to the deck. Rather than aiming directly at the waterline, aim about halfway from the waterline to the deck, and aim for the second turret. That's always my goal. Every time I shoot at these things, if I get a broadside, I'm aiming for the second turret halfway between the waterline and the deck, and it's almost always Citadel City, and usually ends up in a death strike because it's just absolutely nasty. So keep that in mind. Other than that, these things are really, really tanky because they're always bow in. Like, it's very difficult to score damage against these. Unlike the Americans and the Germans, this does not have increased hit points allocated to the superstructure, so the superstructure gets saturated very quickly, meaning this thing can take a lot more damage from the front. But, like I said, most people will shoot your guns out, they will spam high explosive, and just make your day miserable if you're not careful. So that's why I tend to be more aggressive in this. Not having to deal with the super, like, shotgunny shells, and you can absolutely pummel people. It's a lot of fun. Now, fast, above average maximum movement speed. Nimble aim, above average main battery traverse speed. Gives edge in close quarters combat. Sure shot. Shells with a good ballistic trajectory maintain velocity, making aiming easier. That is also true. Now, one thing that I will say also about the French, they do have shotgunny dispersion, and it can be troll both directions. But a lot of the time, it's just troll in a horizontal like dispersion pattern, which is actually good, because it's more likely to find a citadel that way. So you'll notice that when you fire, a lot of times the shells will just fan out wide rather than being high and low, which is preferred by me. I would rather have horizontal dispersion over vertical dispersion any day of the week, because then I know I have a pretty good chance of hitting a citadel on a ship. Because I don't have the best aim in the world. I know there's a lot of people that'll attest to that. But when it's all horizontal like that, I can generally aim high or low on a ship. And those horizontal shells will generally just absolutely devastate ships, even cruisers. Richielieu, one of the most successful and well-balanced new generation battleships in the world. The ship was equipped with 380mm guns, had a high speed, strong armor, and very good torpedo protection. The disadvantages of concentrating the ship's main guns on the bow were compensated by the favorable turret traverse angles. She entered service in 1940, and there were 2 of them in the series. Now, here's the thing. I am not a huge, knowledgeable person from history, but I'm fairly confident that neither the Richielieu or the Jean Bart were actually finished during World War II. The Jean Bart got into a fight with Massachusetts at, was it Casablanca? That sounds right. I could be wrong. It was a heck of a fight, and Massachusetts absolutely pummeled it. The 16-inch American armor piercing just absolutely devastated the ship, and it froze the turrets of the Jean Bart, which actually made the Jean Bart unable to shoot back, at least for a little while. And so they thought they had killed the ship. And in fact, if the ship had been finished, if it actually had its secondary turrets and had guns on the back, it probably would have killed the ship, because a 16-inch armor-piercing round from the Massachusetts detonated inside the main not the main battery, but the secondary magazines. Meaning, if there was ammo there, the ship likely would have been destroyed. But because of the fact that the secondaries hadn't been placed on the Jean Bart, the Jean Bart survived. Not only did it survive, but her crew was able to free up her turrets, and she started firing the next morning. So, yeah, just a little bit of a history lesson. At least that's what I remember of the story. Now, remember, I do this off the cuff. I don't have a report sitting right in front of me. So if I'm incorrect, please feel free to correct me in the comments below. So with that being said, let's take a look at her. And again, this is a fantastic looking ship. It's such a unique design compared to most contemporary battleships that it's just, I like it. I really do. I like the design of these ships. It's such a smart design too when you think about it. Now, a lot of people would be like, well, Spartan, you don't fire over the front of the ship because you've got guys there on AA and stuff that you would actually just pulverize if you fired over the ship. I get that. But at the same time, it does make sense from an armor standpoint to keep your armor pointed towards the enemy at an angle rather than sitting flat broadside like battleships tend to do. But, with that being said, let's get to the gameplay. Alrighty, so we're going to be on Tears of the Desert initially, but I actually decided to make this a double feature episode. You know, when I do these videos, I try to get videos that are a specific type of video, whether it have teaching points, whether it show various different things that I want people to see. But one of the things that... Ooh, this is the right one. I was just... For a second there, I thought I chose the wrong clip. But no, this is one of them, and then there's another one behind it that I'm going to showcase that really show off the ship in a role that most battleships don't or aren't able to really get away with. So keep that in mind. But yeah, we are going to be pushing this side of the map. Now, there's only one destroyer. We don't know exactly where the destroyer is. I always assume that the destroyer spawns directly across from it. Okay? The reason I assume this is because 9 times out of 10, that's exactly what happens. But the other reason I assume this is it keeps me on my toes. I don't get complacent, so I don't end up eating a bunch of torpedoes. Torpedo avoidance is one thing battleship players do really, really poorly. Most battleship players just assume, oh, if there's a torp boat, I'm dead. And they don't even try. But generally speaking, if you know what you're doing, you can anticipate torpedoes and dodge them really easily. Even in a battleship. Now, the Richielieu is extremely good at this, A, because it's not a particularly long ship, and B, it turns really, really well. It's not the fastest turning ship. I mean, Massachusetts and Alabama are both capable of turning or out-turning this ship, and I think Bismarck is as well. But yeah, this one is right in the middle of the road as far as the turning capabilities. But the thing that does give this an advantage is its quick rudder shift. The rudder shift is pretty fantastic. What did we say it was? 12 seconds? That's really good for a battleship. Even a good battleship's generally 14 seconds. And then there's some of them that are 15, 16 seconds, and those ones feel slow. Now, we're detected right away. What does that tell you? Either there's a sneaky cruiser that hasn't fired his guns yet, or the destroyer's right here. And you can see I let my team know that I am detected. Now, there's a teammate that is talking. I hope it doesn't show up in the video. It shouldn't, but it may. There's a teammate talking, but he's not actually talking to me. He's actually in party chat, which brings me to something that I really, really want Wargaming to fix, okay? There's no reason that party chat should be getting posted over game chat. I don't know why this is a thing, as we smash that Bismarck. 15,000 damage right there. But ever since the Series X came out, on the new version of the game for Series X, you actually have your voice chat, if you're in a party, going into game chat. And so it can be really frustrating for people who are not in the party with you when they are trying to communicate and you're talking and it sounds like you're talking, but you're actually talking to somebody in the party with you that we can't hear, but we can hear you because you're in the game with us. So I don't know. It's just one of those things that gets annoying. It needs to be fixed. Now, Synop goes full broadside to me and deserves what he gets here. We get 2 Citadels. That takes us up to 56,000 damage already. Now, with these guys all running away, we know the destroyer's right here. We're going to start pushing forward. Now, watch what I'm about to do. One of the things that I have to do, I am detected by that plane, right? He knows I'm here. He's firing his guns at me. I didn't even look to see what the destroyer was, but I just assume, you know, he's firing his guns quite a bit. It's a gunboat destroyer. I'm going to charge him. And so, remember, we have the target acquisition mod, meaning we will spot this man at 3 kilometers. But somebody spots him for us. We get a shot out, and we hit him for 1/3 of his health. Unfortunately for us, just a really bad salvo. He backs out, hurries up his torpedoes, thinking he's going to get us, and we slow down and turn all the way back in. Now, watch how bad he whiffs these torpedoes. This is why it is easy to dodge torpedoes at a battleship when you know the destroyer's there. Now, if the destroyer has been really good and sneaky, then yes. Oh my god, Synop decided to back out in front of us. Good night, sunshine. Go back to port. You deserved it. But yeah, we have this cruiser here who's going to help us push this freaking Benson and get him off the map. This guy has just absolutely thrown his destroyer away at this point. But for some reason, our cruiser is going to take all day to actually get a hold of this guy. Now, I am leaving the cap here. Normally, I would capture this base. There is a cruiser out here behind me that was just spotted on the edge of the map. And so, I'm not worried about that cruiser. We don't chase kites. We knew this guy had another set of torpedoes, and there they go. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and charge around the corner and prepare to start fighting. Now, I had no intention of going for the Benson unless it came down to a shot, me versus the Benson. I have a Prinz Eugen right here. This Prinz Eugen can murder that Benson easily. So my goal here is to start heading into the Delta Cap and also starting to deal with these battleships on the backside and looking for potential crossfires. Okay? Now here's the bad thing. I tend to put myself into aggressive positions in these, which can also sometimes backfire. And by sometimes, it often does backfire for me, because when I push up, a lot of times my team just does not do the things that I need them to do in the timing that I need them to do it. Now, you'll notice that I did mark that destroyer to make sure that the guys that were behind me in the cap actually saw and were ready to shoot him. Now, I've still got the Prinz Eugen with me currently, okay? He's going to help when we're pushing up here. And then all of a sudden, he's just going to kind of disappear. Now, Bismarck runs into the King George. So we're going to take advantage of this opportunity. I mean, he's basically sitting still broadside, and we're just going to smash him as we reach out and touch him for over 10,000. I think it was like 11 or 12,000 damage right there, taking us up to 99,000. Now, look at who I'm looking at. Every time that I fire my guns, I look over to my right to check this Massachusetts because he has the best angle on me. It's not preferable. So I'm trying to get rid of this Bismarck. I look over one last time, and sure enough, he's bowing. He's already fired his guns at me. This is not going to feel good, but we managed to get very lucky this time. Now, unfortunately, they still have a cruiser all the way on the outside over here that's going to be a real nuisance to me. And so we're trying to get rid of this Bismarck, get him off the board. He's absolutely begging for it. We reach out one last time, and of course we leave him with just enough to get away. But that gives us our high caliber right there. Now, you saw the amount of damage I was doing to that Bismarck, right? Now, this King George is about to do the exact same thing the Bismarck did, which is just run broadside away and absolutely beg for it. But the game is, for whatever reason, going to reward this man. He only gets hit for, what, 2 full penetrations and an overpen there. I think that was like 7,000 damage. And then in 13 seconds, I'm going to be able to do it again. But watch once again as I go to fire these guns. For whatever reason, the game is just like, nope, sorry, we're not going to allow you to have it. Watch it. Watch. This is the dispersion I'm talking about. You take the shot, you figure he's dead. We hit him for 9K. Once again, 3 penetrations, 2 overpins, and he lived. Like, we were hitting that freaking Bismarck for, what, 14,000 damage a pop? This guy is sitting broadside at the same range, and we can't do that. And then the Massachusetts comes around the corner and absolutely punches me in the mouth. Now, you can see I am calling for help. I need somebody to get into range. I've got a cruiser right next to me that could get into range and will to rebuild me to help me survive this onslaught. And he sails away from me. Just completely sails away. This is the frustrating part of playing with random people on your team. Like, you're asking for will to rebuild, the most broken perk in the game. And the guy actually just, like, sails away. Just doesn't even give a crap. But I made up my mind at this point. I am a torpedo. So I just spam once again. I need support. He's once again just going to keep running. I was hoping to get loaded, maybe get something here. But this guy actually hits me with the Boise and sets another fire and actually finishes me off, unfortunately, before I could get to that Massachusetts and ram him. But we end up with 155,000 damage, and this game is in the bag. It's not like we're going to lose this game. We did enough to ensure that our team was going to win this match. And that's one thing that I wish more people would pay attention to what's going on and be able to help their team. And watch, the Prince Eugen completely whiffs his torpedoes on the Massachusetts. Completely whiffs. Why not hold those until you've got a guaranteed hit, you know? Like, why not hold your torpedoes? But he completely whiffs them, and now he's got to go broadside. Of course, Massachusetts doesn't have his guns pointed at him anyway, so it's not like he can do anything about it. But still, it's one of those things. Why do torpedo ships rush torpedoes? Like, you're not going to get depth struck every time you come around a corner when the guy was just pointing his guns in the other direction at the guy that you just abandoned. So why worry about it? Like, you can easily kill the guy. But they rush around, they drop their torpedoes, they completely whiff, and then they're stuck there trying to use their guns to kill him, which, I mean, the guy's broadside at point blank. Even the German armor piercing can go through that from the cruisers. So it was easily done. Now, Prinz Eugen's easily going to murder this Boise. The Boise not even firing at the Prinz Eugen for some reason. I don't know why. But he's not long for this world. As the guy who's in chat talking through the party says, "Man, I can't believe I just missed every one of those." Yeah, I know the feeling. But, yeah, just the way it goes sometimes. RNG giveth, RNG taketh. And you can see all these guys full health. Like, every one of them. The 2 battleships in the cap. Those guys, I've got nothing to say. Like, just straight up. I've got nothing to say for those guys. If you're still in your spawn this late in the game, like, I've got nothing good to say about you. Nothing. You've got all your hit points. Means you have done literally nothing to help the team. Maybe you got a shot or 2 into somebody at some point, but your overall damage and experience is going to reflect how useful you were. So keep that in mind. But this Surrey, for some reason, was hesitant to come out and engage this Ochakov. The Ochakov has no hit points left. I mean, he's less than half his hit points. And the Surrey's very capable of removing him. HE or AP. And it looks like he has chosen HE. And look at the damage he gets. He gets a third of the guy's health left, or what he had left, sets a fire. And then, of course, the other guy smashes him through the bow and takes another third of his health. And, of course, he reloads and is able to finish him off. And that ends this game. 155,000 damage really quickly. A great showcase of the ship's ability to push. And a lot of people just don't use that. I don't know why. The Jean Bart, the Richielieu, fantastic pushing ships. 2,480 base XP in a battleship that died. Now, we're going to showcase a little bit more strategic gameplay rather than just a raw bum rush like we had in the last one. This one is going to showcase map awareness and paying attention to the objectives, and also making sure to assist your team with crossfires on a map where it's a very small map. Look at our range on this map. From where we sit, we can affect almost the entire map. Okay? Keep that in mind. That doesn't mean you should sit in your spawn and shoot across the map. You know, you have objectives, battleships. You're allowed to take objectives too. And I'm going to showcase just how important taking objectives can be. So we're going to push out to the left side. I always do this on this side, by the way. If I spawn on the outside edge of A, I will always go to the outside, clear it, and go in. Because I have been burnt too many times by a ship coming around the outside and getting behind me. It's not a good feeling, okay? It has happened too many times, so I will not let that happen ever again. I will meet whatever ship's there head on, I will kick its butt, and then I will move on. I will grab Alpha and then move into the middle. That's how this map plays out for me. Now, we are in the unique ability to be able to do that in a flanking battleship. The Georgia, the Richielieu, the Jean Bart all have the engine boost consumable on a battleship. They are flanking battleships. They are not meant to sit at 19 kilometers and fire across the map. They are meant to push around the flanks and get crossfires and take advantage of those crossfires. If you don't believe me, just watch how this game unfolds. Okay? This is a perfect example of creating crossfires and helping your team and just absolutely obliterating the enemy team. Now, this isn't going to be the highest damage game in the world. Okay? It's still a solid game, don't get me wrong. It's a solid game, and the XP that I end up with at the end of the game showcases just how solid of a game it was because of the things that I do during the match. Fun fact is, there's a few people in the match that were talking once again, but they were in a party. And Dr. Fat, I knew who he was going in because we've run into him in streams and stuff before when I was playing with Peak and Hive and them, I think, or at least Peak and Aaron. So I know who Dr. Fat is, and so it was pretty cool. I got to see him, and I was like, that's pretty cool, but he was actually talking in his party again. And it was pretty funny to listen to his commentary on how I was playing the match while I was going. He sent me a message after it. He said, GG, but you should have heard the things he was saying in his chat. It was pretty hilarious. At one point, I can only imagine his teammate in the party says something along the lines, what is Spartan doing? He's just sitting there. He's not doing anything. And he responds with, I don't know, I'll send him a text after the game. And I was like, okay, that's probably about me. No big deal. And then at another point in the match, he says, oh, this isn't going to be a game for... he doesn't have a high caliber. This isn't going to be a game for his path to the Richielieu series. But don't worry, it's here. It has arrived, Dr. Fat. We got you. But yeah, we're going to jump into A. I've had to fill some time. That's why I talked about all that. But I had to fill some time, right? So we're into Alpha. We're capturing Alpha. We know there's a destroyer ahead, so I've already loaded HE. I have no idea how much health this destroyer has. All I know is he's been in a smoke screen for quite a while, so he's likely to be coming out of a smoke screen in the near future. I want to be in a position to take a shot. I rushed the shot initially, and it was pretty ugly, not gonna lie. But the second shot comes through, and we managed to just get a shot in there and finish him off for a whopping 89 damage, actually ending up with 90 damage, according to the game. So there you go. Now, we notice that we have some windows. See these valleys in between the mountains? People don't know what those are for. Here's the thing, guys. Those valleys are called windows. Those windows are for absolutely devastating people who are not paying attention to the fact that you exist. Like this Georgia who's sailing broadside to me, even though I was just spotted. Wait for it. Pow! He's lucky to not just be outright dev-struck right there. Immediately he turns in and runs aground into the island, I believe, or at least follows the Bismarck. Now, it's at this moment that I start hearing from Dr. Fat in chat. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, he wasn't actually talking to me. He's talking to his partner in his party chat. But it was hilarious because I was laughing about it. But you can see I grabbed the base, and now that I have the base and got a pretty nasty crossfire on that Georgia who just was not expecting that. There was no way he was expecting to get smashed like that. Now watch where I move to. I move up, and then I'm going to sit here. Rather than come around the corner and take on a Bismarck, a Georgia, and a Leon out there, solo, I'm going to help my team with all of these guys on the enemy side that are pushing across the gap. Once again, there's a gap between mountains. It is a window. A window for you to take advantage of crossfires. Now, this isn't the best positioning for a Richielieu, because they're not known for being long-range snipers because of the ridiculous dispersion. But, that being said, they can be pretty decent at sniping, as this Munchin's about to find out. And we hit him what should have been a dev strike, but, you know, it's a small cruiser. I get it. Overpins are a thing. He's going to get behind the island. The Suja, on the other hand, is not a small cruiser. It is a light cruiser variant of the heavy cruiser Mogami. It has 152mm guns instead of the 8-inch guns that the Mogami has. So it's technically a light cruiser, but it still has the same armor and still takes citadels just as easily. I don't know why everybody says that the Suja is so hard to citadel. The only thing that makes the Suja hard to citadel is if the Suja is actively avoiding you and you're shooting at these kinds of ranges. Because all he has to do is wait till you fire and he can dodge. But if you hit the ship, it's Citadel City, just like the Mogami, just like the... and you can see we get another good hit on him for 10,000 damage. No Citadel that time, but considering how bad that dispersion was, it was pretty impressive. Now we look at the Leon. The Leon doesn't scare me. Even though we just had the Leon in the match, and we showcased how dangerous that ship can be, when I'm against them, I'm not really afraid of them, because I know how to damage them, I know how to take them out, and I know what they're capable of. Once again, it comes down to knowing your enemy, knowing what they are capable of, knowing what you're capable of, and then when it comes to dealing with these kinds of cruisers, paying attention to tendencies is huge. So you'll see that I'm trying to finish off the Suzuya, but he's going to be going behind the island shortly, and you can see last time I fired at him, he turned into bow tank, so I'm going to kind of assume that that's what he's going to do again. And once again, he proves that I am correct. And we end up getting another hit on him, but only one penetration, because once again, that's the way it goes sometimes. But Suja now has realized that he can't sit there, because I will keep shooting him. He's going to try to get behind the island and break contact. We're going to get loaded because of our fast reload and get the shells off just in time before he goes dark and breaks contact. And wait for it. Down he goes with another Citadel. So, yeah. It's just one of those things, you know. You put yourself in position to be the biggest impact on the enemy team that you can be, as well as playing objectives. Most Battleship players simply do not play objectives. Now, we take that shot, we're assuming that's going to hit the mountain, so I don't even bother looking at it. We've got a Georgia out here, we've got the Bismarck that ran away. The Leon is coming behind me for Alpha. I'm not particularly worried about the Leon getting Alpha. If he does, it doesn't really matter. I can deal with him later. He's not a threat to me. So I'm going for the Georgia initially because he's giving me a pretty juicy shot. I didn't aim far enough ahead. He's probably running his engine boost, and I'm going to hit towards the back of the ship. We still get a little bit of damage with 1 penetration, but not much. But the Bismarck out here, he's just sitting here broadside on, absolutely begging for it. He was in reverse. He's about to switch gears. I thought he was going to go forward, but no, he just decides, I'm going to sit right here. Assuming that when I fire he was going to go forward, I aim a little to the front of the ship. He does go forward, and we smash him for 15,500 damage. And of course, Dr. Fat gets all of his torpedoes off, and Bismarck, you're absolutely boned in this one, brother. You shouldn't have done it. You shouldn't have done it. And he goes down. A very nice dev strike by Dr. Fat. Now, I'm going to push out to the right. Now, watch how I play the ending of this. I am going to play this about as perfectly for a battleship as you can play it. Now, remember, I've got my engine boost running for the next minute and a half. We're moving out to engage the Georgia. The Georgia is the biggest threat left in the game. So he's who I'm going for first. He's also the lowest health. The Leon behind me still has a decent chunk of health left. But I know I can kill the Leon at any time. I want to finish the Georgia off before he's able to get away and get some heals off because of the quick fire heals that the Georgias do get. So we get around the corner. I was actually expecting him to be on the other side of the island, not going to lie. He caught me off guard, but we do get a snapshot away. Mostly horizontal dispersion, and that's going to be a pretty solid hit. Pulling in, I don't know, about 6,000 damage or so. That takes us up to 108,000 damage. And I went to the right here because I'm anticipating coming out, killing the Georgia, and then going after the Leon. Okay, this is how far ahead I think, usually. It doesn't always work in my favor, because sometimes it ends up getting me in trouble. But we're going to take another shot. I'm not going to lie. This, I thought, was death for the Georgia. But, as we've known for so long, I cannot get people off the board more often than not. Most of the time, I end up leaving people with nothing. And I thought for sure that these guys were going to come in and yoink this kill for me because of it. Because, you know, these guys are going to be a lot more accurate. Watch this dispersion, though. Look at that! Like, really? Really? It's just off to the side of his ship one way, off to the side of his ship the other way. It's just an absolute shotgun blast. But, fortunately for me, these guys weren't getting any real damage on him. So, he's still alive. That means I get one more chance, and he finally decides to turn, and at this point, I knew he was dead. Like, I just even turned away. I was like, I'll look over. Yeah, there it is. 2,300 extra damage. Bringing us up to 111. Now, look at this. Our engine boost ran out. We're done with the engine boost, but because of prior planning, we're already in a turn. We're ready, and we're going to be able to go back through the gap and engage the Leon. Now, the Leon caught A. Where would he likely go next? Well, he's probably not going to leave A. He's probably going to be in A, so I figure at any moment we should be detecting him because it's a small map. And sure enough, he detects us, which means I'm ready to shoot him. And wait for it. We get the detection. He pops up half a second later. We hurry up. We get the clutch shot, and the dispersion is absolutely beautiful. And pow! Dropping the bomb, getting the high caliber on the last shot of the game. You gotta love it. But, yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this Path to the Richielieu series. Only 134,000 damage, right? But look at that, 3,100 base XP with 4 kills, top of the leaderboard. So if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.